So thanks very much for joining us today. We've got a couple of speakers who are from Colchester Borough Council. We've got Vaughan Johnson, who's Business Service Manager, and Darren Marzell, who's a System Development Manager. Just a word of introduction. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, Integrated Skills have been running this series of spring and summer webinars. Just to give you a kind of flavour, for those of you who've not joined us already before, so in month one, the way we've organised this is in month one, we would have a RouteSmart masterclass with my colleague Beth Webb. So Beth's been running through some of the key topics in using RouteSmart. So last month, for example, we looked at the use of the import wizard, and she's got a series of technical topics for those of you who are already RouteSmart users. The alternating month, we address a wider policy or service-related theme. So this year we've looked at the beginning of the year, we looked at the government's new resources strategy. And then we've had a session looking at how you can nudge, as an authority, you can nudge the public to recycle more. And then in the last more sort of policy or service related webinar, we looked at waste composition analysis, and we had a masterclass from Sarah Knapp, who works with us but has done hundreds of waste composition analysis projects. So let me just give you a flavour of the topics that are still coming up. So on Friday the 6th of September, put this in your diary, we've got RouteSmart Masterclass looking at networks. And then on Friday the 20th of September, we've got a topic on overcoming resistance to new technology in local authority workspace. On that, we've got an expert who's worked with public sector for many years, NHS, particularly looking at, but actually he's from a technical background, having worked for BT Mobile, looking at the why people are resistant to new technology in local authorities, and trying to unravel some of the reasoning behind that. And yeah, I think that will be really interesting. I just wanted to remind you about our Summer Madness. It's because we can, our Summer Madness RouteSmart training, for those of you who are looking at ordering training during July and August, our RouteSmart training is discounted by 25%. That's quite a deal. So just to give you a kind of flavour, our refresher course, street service routing, our introduction to RouteSmart, introduction to Fusion, Navigator, and our new introduction to ArcGIS training. Those prices include for laptop hire for up to 4 attendees. So yeah, we look forward to hearing from you on that. But obviously, traditionally, the summer period is quite a quiet period for us. So if you want to get on and make some advantage of those discounts, then that would be good. So turning to today, so today's topic, connected technologies. Integrated Skills, we've been talking to authorities for a few years about the whole idea of connected technology. And recently I've been working with around 25 authorities where we pulled together really a definition of what we mean by service quality. And really the conclusion for that, from that work with those authorities, is if we could only A, have the same data, and B, all have visibility to the data, then we could significantly improve both service quality and service performance within the authorities. So we've been working with Colchester on this project since 2017, and you know, we were invited to attend the MJ Awards with Colchester. They were nominated as a finalist, and the digital transformation really as a result of, in a large part, this project that you're going to hear about today. I'm looking forward to hearing from Vaughan and Darren on their experience of implementing the connected technologies approach in Colchester. I'm hoping that you will find it interesting too. I'm pretty sure that you will. It seems like a really very kind of current topic. So please think about any questions. Please add to our Q&A session before the end of the webinar. And obviously we'll look forward to the Q&A. But firstly, I'd like to introduce Vaughan and Darren. Vaughan and Darren, it's over to you. So I'll pass over to you now. Cheers. Thank you.
So we're going to be sharing a second screen in a minute. Darren's just sorting it out. We're just going for the presentation at the moment. Hopefully you can hear me. It should be quite clear. So in Colchester, we've recently gone through a massive reorganisation. We've gone through the whole of our sort of systems that we use, and waste services was one of our main ones. It was a big undertaking, and we did it in quite a short time period, and Integrated Skills worked with us on what was very tight, a matter of months. The first thing we came across was data. The key for us is getting data in one area. When we started to look at it, we had a lot of clerical data. We had a lot of data when it came to tonnage in credit claim. We had a lot of data when it came to addressing in our LLPG, and the quality of it wasn't probably at the extent we'd need it to be to start the project. So Integrated Skills helped us to clean it up. They helped us to go through it. And that's why the first slide is probably one of the most important ones. The mantra was data, data, data. Make sure you've got the quality of data you need before you even start this project. The next thing we looked at was actually one single version of the truth. The key for us is ensuring that we only have one set of data. We had multiple sets. Some of them were being kept up to date, some weren't, as you can appreciate. So we got the accuracy of the data and then a single version of the truth. Hopefully I'm not going too fast. The next thing is where it gets exciting for us, because we were actually looking at optimization, which sounds bad, 18 months to 3 years with the previous system we had. With this one, we were trying to get into as close as we could to weekly, and we have done that. And the difference is the way in which actually the data then feeds into RouteSmart. If you look at this, for example, we've got 5 workspaces. We've got refuse, garden, paper, plastic, glass cans and food waste. This is what we term as our pre-production environment. This is when we take the information from our local land property gazetteer, we drop it into RouteSmart and we start to play around with it. The whole point of this is pre-production is our draft, as it were. It looks quite busy at the moment, but you can draw it down. If you look at the next slide, we can actually look at how this flows in. When you look at it in Fusion, which, let's face it, we build a lot of it in RouteSmart. Fusion is where it's all surfaced. It's a lot easier to actually see where these actual routes and, more importantly, properties and addresses reside. We've color-coded ours so we can easily pick up, you know, if it's, say, an orangey color, we know that's refuse. If it's a green, then we know, obviously, that's the garden. So what we try to do is make it easy for people to drill down this data. So RouteSmart is where the information comes in, you play around with it, you can automate it, which is what we'll talk about later. And finding the properties is really easy. And then Fusion is where we actually start to look at the data, interrogate it, and actually get a really decent view of it. The view is important. When you look at our live view, this is what grabbed the attention of people, especially from a management perspective in the back room. On the left, hopefully, it's quite easy to see. It's a screenshot here. You can see the different coloured routes, the different coloured lorries. You can see the percentage of completion, which is really important. So here, it's really easy on the left. Which lorries are en route? How far are they through their rounds? With RouteSmart, interrogating data came down to a whole new level for us. We've looked at timings around rounds. We've managed to drop a day. We've gone from Monday to Friday to just Tuesday to Friday. We don't do Mondays anymore. Why? I've got to be careful what I say here, but rounds could be more efficient. In the past, they may have been able to do rounds quicker than possibly they might have done them. So what we've done now is maximised our workload, you know, from when they start to when they finish. We know how much tonnage they're going to pick up, how many returns to base they're going to make when it comes to fuel efficiencies. and we know where they are at any one time. If they're not moving, we know they're not moving. If we've only done 50% of that round, where normally it'd be 80, why are they taking their time? What's the slow? We just measure them in cab and find out what's going on. So the scrutiny is far better than what we had before. It gets interesting. Data's never sexy. I don't know whether you guys have the same problem, but quite often you can't really get people to accept data. But here, it's the visual aspect that kind of won people over. Here you can see the dots. Again, on the left-hand side, we can still see the completion of the rounds. We're starting to look at a round here. And on the right, you can see we've got some of the stats coming in with the reports. We've got the high, medium, low with the red, the RAG status. We can look at what reports are coming in. So when you look at this particular area with these properties, on the right, we're looking at what's coming up as reports from those properties. If you want to go down deeper, you can go down to an even lower level. And here, for example, we've got an assisted collection where we go onto an actual dot, an actual property. We look at that specific property because it's got a marker on it. And here it shows us that basically there's a assisted collection. This is where we really sort of make the benefits. This is where we really get the data to work for us. We can go down to a lower level. And this is where we've got the wins, because before we were never interrogating that data. We never got down to this level. Where we've made the most kind of change and where we've got the most benefit is the live reporting. For one, it's easier to see what's going on. It's color coded. Yes, we've got our priorities, but here, more interesting, we can look at collection days, what material is being collected, the collection routes, the assisted collections, any exceptions, what's not being picked up. Here, we're actually able to pick up on things really quickly. If a road's closed, I don't know whether you guys, I'm going to suggest you do, have the same problem where on a lot of our new estates, the roads are quite narrow. A lot of people are parking in the road, so we can't always access that road. Here, we're able to get the in-cab to tell us that, and straight away, within minutes, we're able to get that up on our website and actually say, we can't collect today, road is blocked, we're going to be back tomorrow. The key for us with all of this data is being able to push rather than pull data. In the past, we used to have bits of paper. They used to be tagged to the boards in the morning. The crews used to go out. They used to fill out all their forms. End of the day, used to tag it back at the end of the day. That was then manually input. And then the next day, we had an idea of what happened. Now, within minutes, we're literally picking up on things and we're pushing it out saying, we can't collect. This is why. By the way, we'll be back tomorrow. Hopefully, and we're finding that people then say, okay, we know what's going on. They just accept it. Some people might still phone up saying, okay, I know you can't get down that street, but, I want you to collect your rubbish. But it's minimizing basically people contacting us because they know what's going on and why. Here is our live reports. In the back there, I've put there the in-cab to and from unit. There's live interaction with crews. And this is the difference for us. One, we can monitor what they're doing. Two, they can tell us when there's a problem. This has been a major part of our customer liaison, and it's improved our customer feedback no end. And with the low, medium, high priority, it's just easy to see. And you can set this, by the way, it's easy to see what we need to jump on. If it's high priority, we literally can't get down that street. We can't pick it up. If it's a medium, then we're looking at things like, not out. It wasn't the right week. And if it's low, then it's something that's, to the side. It could be something where they haven't got the right receptacle. It's something where they've raised saying, my wheelie pin's missing. It's just low priorities for us. But we can concentrate on the high and medium, which is important. I guess I mentioned about pushing rather than pulling, and the customer expectations have gone up, across our self-serve, and this is part of our self-serve. When it comes to missed bins, people have been told information up front, and we're expecting them to then manage that. And that's the important thing about this. The expectations have gone up. I guess I'm the same. I went on to British Gas last night and I just gave them my readings. Now they're automatic, so quite often I don't even have to do that. To me, I just expect things to work, and if things aren't working, just tell me about it and tell me how you're going to fix it. And that's where we are at the moment. This is probably the easiest way of showing how everything sort of hangs together. RouteSmart is our single version of the truth. All of our property information from our local land property gazetteer goes in there, and then we develop it, we add it to the rounds, we just do all the changes we need without any fear of breaking anything, because it's in that pre-production environment. Until we actually publish it in those workspaces and add it to those workspaces, we can do whatever we want without affecting our live environment. And that's where the benefit has come from, because people are basically feeling a bit more confident in making change, looking at the way in which rounds work, because they know that they're not going to break anything in that live environment. Until they actually take it from the draft pre-production to production, it doesn't affect anything. Once it leaves RouteSmart, it goes into Fusion. You'll see there it goes into the in-cab units, but just as important for us, it's going into our Dynamics. Our website's built on Dynamics. All our workflows are built on Dynamics. The information's flowing from Fusion into Dynamics. Talking about our website, the next screenshot is basically a live website. We've got at the moment, we're trying to feedback data there. You'll see there's percentage, 55.7%. It's actually gone up now. The other thing about being more efficient and effective in our monitoring of rounds, our monitoring of behaviours from customer to our own staff, is our accuracy and our percentage of service has gone up. You know, it's really, really improved, and it continues to at a decent level, more than we hoped for, actually, to be honest. So we're way above that 55.7 now. That was actually a stat I took from November, so I can after this give you our latest stats, and I'll give you a graph at how things have improved, because it's important to see just how things have worked for us over the last few months. I mentioned live reports. This is how simple it is. You can see the high, medium, low. If we pick up one here, there's one that's saying it's not out for Hampstead Road. So straight away we can see why, and that was 2 minutes ago on that screenshot, why someone hasn't actually had a successful collection. I'd like to mention the successful collection, because the other thing we've done is by exception. So a lot of our staff in the lorries themselves, you know, a lot of them just want the most simplistic approach. For want of a better term, they see the in-cab as just a GPS, you know, sat nav. It just tells them where to go, they follow it. Now, we've done it by exception. So what happens is GPS picks up that location. If they then move past that location, it says, okay, I'll take that as a successful collection. They only have to basically put in or actually press a button if they can't actually collect it. So by exception means that the majority of work they have to do, they don't have to touch it. They just move to the next property, it picks it up. The other thing we try to do is make it really simple. It's color coded. There's less, but it's a touch screen. There's less buttons for them to push. Just because I've got gloves and they want simplicity, I've got to be polite in the way in which their technology and their ability to use technology may not be as high as others within the organisation. Is probably the way to put it. So they're able to just press a button and say, you know, these are the obvious ones. It wasn't out. It was wrong week. So you just go press, pass, press. They don't have to actually write anything, because we've already put the pre-designed options that we expect. The only time they'd have to do it is if it's something that we hadn't expected. So if it's the wrong week, you know, as in wrong recycling, if it wasn't out, they just press a button, it's done. So if we look at basically our website, and we'll go for a live, basically something that's happening now. We'll try and do that in a minute. It'll be all right in the night. I'm sure something will go wrong, but we're going to try it. But what we've done now is our website's built on Dynamics. Someone could just go on. They can go on to report. We had road earlier. So let's take an example. So they've gone in, put their address. We then give them an option to say, what are you actually sort of logging this exception for? What are you saying has happened? Now, I guess it's all a learning lesson. So the first time we did this, we said, what are you trying to log? And they put in, for example, food waste. We then said, okay, you know, and then it came back saying, actually, you didn't put this out today. That's why we couldn't collect it. What we didn't think of is they might have more than one. It could be food waste. It could be garden. It could be paper and plastic. And we didn't actually give that as an option. So once they put that exception in, they can put another one in. So we then built this at the front end to say, okay, give us an idea. And as you can see, there's multiple options. Now, for this week, it's a green week. This person, for example, wants to say, you didn't take my wheelie bin, my black bin. So here at the options they've ticked yes. So what we then do, and this is again surfacing through Fusion, it says, okay, I've looked at the route, I've looked at your property on the route, and this week, and actually it's a green week. So straight away it says your recycling and rubbish collections on a Thursday, this week is green, and then it gives them an idea of what they should be putting out. If I was to say take a step back and go and put in food waste, which is every week, then for that same property here, it says we weren't able to collect it. It was because it was not out when our rubbish and recycling team attempted to collect it. And as you'll see there, it was the 18th of July, in this case, at 11:04 when I took that screenshot. So literally, it was within 2 minutes of getting that into Fusion, getting it into our website. I could literally go in and that information was available to me. The other thing we're using at the moment, which again is Fusion, it's our single version of the truth, is known issues. As you'll see here, again, when they're looking at reporting a missed collection, when they're looking at anything to do with obviously our recycling at the moment, on the right we can push to say, right, today what do we know of? We know we've got operational issues. We can't pick up St Anne's and St John's, and we can even, if you look there, put down the property, so 229 to 413. We've even said there's access issues in Destination Drive. So obviously we can get to the destination on that one. Bad pun. So these outstanding items will be collected on Wednesday the 10th. So what we're saying is we can't get to that property or that range of property. We will come back on. That was the 9th. We'll come back on the 10th. So people have all of that information and we're pushing it out to them. And we've seen a reduction in obviously customer contact, because most people, and I'm the same, I think you guys will probably be with me, I don't really want to talk to someone unless I have to. If someone's telling me information up front, then I know what I need to know. I won't bother contacting you because I'll say, okay, I'll wait and I'll expect it to be picked up tomorrow and then we'll see what happens. So that seems to be what's happening with us. So yes, our accuracy's gone up, but at the same time, our customer contact's gone down. So I guess if anything, simplicity is the key. So online wise, we just do basically simple checks. That's all we can do. Is it the right week? So is the reported missed collection the right type? Is it the right day? We ask them to report it within 48 hours. You know, there has to be a deadline. You know, if it's a Tuesday, then we allow them to do Wednesday, Thursday. We'd have to cut off on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, because I'd expect if someone's basically not had a collection and they don't think this is right, as in we've not told them it's not out, etc., then I'd expect them to do that within 48 hours. We then look at the exception after that. So is it the right week? Is it the right day? Is it an exception report? If there isn't, then we allow them to report it. If there is, then we'll tell them why we can actually take that, and we rely on them to then make the adjustments. Dynamics pushes a collection job directly to the collection team via mobile device. So again, you know, if they then raise it as a missed bin, that goes into Dynamics and straight away it goes to our mobile devices on our collection team and they pick it up. I guess the biggest thing for us is educating customers, and Darren will talk about this a bit later. So we're able to take those reports out of Fusion. If we call them here active missed bin reports, that goes into Dynamics. So the live Fusion reporting goes into Dynamics and we're able to say, right, is there a regular address? You know, we looked at one yesterday and there was literally 10, 11 different aspects there where it was not out. So what we then do is our customer teams then contact that address because we're looking at why isn't it out, you know, what's going wrong here. When we get to multiple kind of exception reports, we're able to go to specific addresses or specific streets and look at basically educating them. So the targeting of individuals and streets has been, you know, far better. And that's all down to Fusion and the reporting we're getting out of it. So what have we been doing lately? That's interesting, really. So in the past, we took the LLPG. It's a data transfer file. We take a nightly import of the streets and properties. We then put that into a holding area because we only want to update RouteSmart once a week. You know, otherwise it's too much, I feel. You know, once a week's enough for us. When you're looking at optimizing routes once every 18 months to 3 years, you know, to get to once a week is a massive difference, you know, as you can imagine. So We take that LLPG file, that drops into a jump box. It's then picked up every Thursday, and we pick up all of that week's reports. They go into RouteSmart. On a Friday, one of our guys comes in and he basically looks at it, and RouteSmart just says, these are all the new addresses this week that aren't already in RouteSmart that we need to add, and these are the ones that have changed. So he can just look at a list where he knows they're either new or there's a change to them. Now, this was a decision taken by the business that they wanted that manual kind of, control. That's changed recently because basically they trust RouteSmart more. They know how it works. They're seeing the benefits. So now they're saying, let's just automate the rest of it. Let's just take it and actually let RouteSmart use parameters like the time on that round. So if one round, say 8 hours, one's closer to 9, you'd start to look at adding it to the 8-hour round. We then look at tonnage. If one, say, got 3 returns to our depot, one's got 2, we'd look at the tonnage and we'd weigh up. And this is what RouteSmart can do, looking at parameters and say, right, I'll add it to this round. So we can look at parameters around timings, tonnage, and we can use parameters to actually automatically assign those properties to those particular rounds in those workspaces. And then it will then say, I've added these are the new ones I've added. And then if you want to check it, you can, but quite often we just think we're just going to leave it, let it do its thing, because it's pretty damn good at what it does. We've added our online experience by managing to use the Fusion API, and it gives us our last successful. So we can say, this is when we last successfully picked up your rubbish. This is the latest kind of attempt we've made, and then we can look at any exceptions. With that, basically the automation of that script to just allow RouteSmart to assign them with parameters. The other thing we're looking at is when we actually add new properties or make changes to properties and make those changes into RouteSmart. We're looking at changing it now where we take, as part of the RouteSmart, you've got a template, and you can design a template to export data through the export wizard, and you can use, like UPRN, you can use recycling week, the type of rubbish, and we can get an XLS report, which we're going to look at dropping into SharePoint and then using Microsoft Flow to import that data into Dynamics. So it's more seamless. So with our Dynamics, which sits against our website, we're making even more improvements there, because then the data is going to be basically dropped into Dynamics at the same time it's dropped into Fusion. So we're going to update both at the same time. Again, it's still the single version of the truth, because it's LLPG into RouteSmart, and then RouteSmart updates everything. I've gone quite quickly through this because I think you'll probably have more questions, and I think it's better just to have an overall view, and then let's just get the questions in place, because it's going to make more sense to just interrogate us a little. And I use that term because you might want to. I guess the only thing we've done is we've had to make changes, whether it's knowing about the single exception and not being able to pick up further ones, to looking at the way to develop RouteSmart to fit with flows, SharePoint and Dynamics. For us, it's as long as you learn, and it's not the sort of thing where you just put it in and leave it. You've got to, and when I say that, it's because once you start using it and once you start optimizing it, you think, Christ, I can do so much more of this. We're developing it further and further, because we're getting to the point now where within minutes we're updating our customers. So for us, it's continual development, but on a positive scale. So that's why I've said there's only one more thing more painful than learning from experience, and that's not learning from it. So we're just basically pushing out information to our customers, and we're making changes on, almost weekly now, to improve the data we've got and the way in which we use it. I've talked a lot. I've gone through it. It might have been quite quick, but it's already 11:30, so I wanted to get into the questions, because I think you all probably have questions for us about how you're currently working and how you see this could possibly fit for you. The other thing we're looking at when I talk about developing the solution is we're looking at getting now our street cleaning in it, even our flower watering for Colchester in Bloom, because when you look at it, even with Colchester in Bloom, we're running out of water halfway around. So we're looking at basically, once you've developed it, you can develop it kind of pretty much for anything. So now we see the benefit of street cleaning. Now we see the benefit of even watering our flower arrangements within Colchester High Street and the surrounding areas, because it's all just basically taking roots, maximising them, It's not tonnage, it's the amount of water that each vehicle holds and how often it will have to basically stop and then refill. So it's one of those things that's reusable data, if that makes sense, once you've got your head around it. Anyway, that's it. Darren and I are here. Darren's the dynamics expert, him and his team, and then I was the project manager for developing the solution at the start.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Vaughan. That was really interesting. It's quite a lot to take in there. But I mean, you've clearly kind of really taken on quite a challenge to look at the whole system from start to finish. And from our experience of working with you, we have been impressed, to be honest, so impressed with the kind of ambition at Colchester. I think the ambition originally was to have a system up and running in cab on the ground with new routes, with the back office included. And I think it was around about 6 months, I think, between us we actually managed to turn that around. And I think the launch date was July after the order in January. So yeah,
it was 6 months, because I remember at the time, because it was a council decision, went to cabinet and they said, right, yeah, we want it, we like it, right, so you've got your 6 months. And we were like, whoa, it's 18 months, 2 years, but yeah, we did do it in 6 months. And then I think the thing I remember as well, which I don't know, perhaps I shouldn't say this, but you did help us a lot, and I don't know how that worked out with consultancy, but I remember sort of some of the things data-wise we didn't understand, where we said to you, right, we don't include flats, so leave flats out. And then the first thing we said was there's hundreds of properties missing, and you were like, well, yeah, and then you said, well, you didn't want flats involved. We were like, no, we didn't. But then we found out that some flats were curbside, they weren't Eurobin. Yeah. And it's just kind of, getting our head around it, because we didn't understand our own rounds, our data, because it's all very much over years, it's been established, and there's one or two individuals that know it really deep down. But even they didn't know the full extent of what was required. So I guess if nothing else, the main thing for us is we know our data now, we know our rounds, we know how they work, and we never had that before.
Can I just ask a question about the overall impact of I mean, I've been talking to authorities, and they've been raising issues about quality service, and one of the biggest issues that they raised is this whole thing about visibility of data. I mean, basically authorities I speak to are concluding that if we could only get everyone seeing the same set of data and seeing the progress against that data at the same time, it would just cut out so much double, treble, quadruple handling sometimes. My background in running waste management services in local authority, pieces of paper would sort of run backwards and forwards across the office, but just so that everyone could see these of the same event through a portal at the same time. Actually, I mean, the conclusion we've had from authorities is that would make a tremendous effort. But I mean, has that been the case with you? Has that been your experience in Colchester?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I guess I mean, I'm very honest about things. So for me, I guess the key for us is when we first started talking about this, the crews were saying, oh, I'm not sure about this, we like the way it works, etc. And they definitely were worried about the fact that they were doing a full day's work, start to finish. But now they love it, because basically new drivers can come in, because sometimes a driver goes sick, another driver can come in. It literally is like a sat nav. They term it as a sat nav. But then the biggest win for us is not just the crews being able to just pick up rounds, which you didn't have before. You couldn't just cover it. The management reporting's amazing. They've got the Fusion up live on a big screen. People can just walk in, see where everything is. Where's this round? Where's this lorry? How far are they through it? They can even drill it down to, okay, where are they on that road? That's where management said, well, this is it. This is what we needed. This is the view we have to have. And I think that was the biggest win for us. I mean, the customers have been massive. Our customer interaction's been phenomenal now, and the data we're getting is ridiculous. Like I said, within minutes we're reporting on it. It's up on our website, and if someone tries to even report a bin, we're not talking about 24, 48 hours. We're talking about 2-3 minutes. They're going in, because they are quite quick, because they're saying, oh, they've gone past, and already that data's in there. We know what happened. We never had that before.
And the thing is, Stu, you're right, because as per your original point, someone tries to report a missed bin online and they're refused. So, of course, a number of people think that's not a problem. I'll phone the contact centre. But of course, the contact centre have got access to Fusion, so they're seeing exactly the same.
Yes.
So there ain't no way through anymore, you know. So
Yeah.
it's certainly an advantage.
I mean, there is some element of this. There's a bit of a shock, isn't there, that local authorities who, traditionally, and I speak as someone who's previously worked in local government, they've not been the slickest, and there's always that potential to sort of try and get around the back somehow. But yeah, that's really encouraging, actually. Really encouraging news. Is there anything else you wanted to sort of pick up on, or anything else you thought you just wanted to add in, Darren, on Vaughan's presentation, which has been pretty thorough, I've got to say, but I just wondered if there's anything from your side of things that you wanted to add.
I think, I mean, firstly, it's refreshing, when you're in a local authority development area, it's absolutely refreshing to work with a bit of software that gives you a decent API to use, because some of our more legacy systems suppliers don't think that that's necessarily particularly important. So it was really useful to have you guys on board and to have the sort of technical help that you gave us. I think Vaughan touched upon the data, and I would say that was our biggest challenge, really. So anyone that's looking to sort of implement a system anywhere in the region of what we're doing, what's absolutely key is understanding where that data is going to come from to build that single view of the truth.
Yeah.
So we're pulling data in from the LLPG, and we're pulling data in from RouteSmart. And originally that was all very manual and very haphazard. So what we ended up with was a system that worked brilliantly for 95% of people. But if you just moved into a property, it didn't work for you at all. So we had to sort of, so this wonderful thing that we created and we were showing off was like, it's absolute rubbish if your data's not on there.
Yeah.
So we've really concentrated on making those data streams a bit more automated. And it's taken a while to do that because they're in different places, they're on different systems, but we're pretty much there now. So really, as soon as we know about property from a council tax point of view, that property is already probably in RouteSmart. Once we get the automation of the routes up, it will be routed, and we're now getting a feed of any sort of changes to routes that come into Dynamics. And we're also on the other side getting a feed in from the LLPG into Dynamics. So we're getting, the sort of data triangle is really now up to date, and that's absolutely key to all this working properly.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah, thanks for that. Okay, let me have a look. Here's a question from Louise. Thanks, Louise. Let's just publish this. Any questions for Vaughan? No, let's publish this one.
So the next part is, of course, at the start, before we used to basically err on the side of caution. So someone used to, say, I've had a missed bin, and we were like, okay, we don't know enough about it. There's no information. So literally, quite often we used to just raise it and just go out and just do it. It was just seen, okay, we don't know what the reason is behind it. When this started to come up, and obviously now we've got this information, to start with, people used to phone up and say, yeah, it was out, you just forgot it, But then the whole point for us is that quite often we're able to say, okay, we'll go out this once. And at the start, we had to sort of manage this because even people used to dump their rubbish at the end of a road, not even outside of their property. For some reason, there was a cul-de-sac or whatever, and they used to have an agreement where they used to just jump it all at the end. So we've had to re-educate people by saying, no, just leave it outside your house. We need to physically go past. We need to know who is what, because we're even looking at, have you got 1, 2 bags? We're trying to monitor the amount of rubbish that's going out. So yes, at the start, we did have people phone up saying, I dispute this. And sometimes we used to give them benefit of the doubt. But then the whole point is the next time they report it, we're like, hang on a minute, it's not out again. What's going on here? So quite often it was like, how many strikes? We used to give them 1 strike when this was coming in, and then we used to sort of manage it with them afterwards. And it is getting reliable now. The crews are, we trust them 100%.
Yeah, we've staged, as Vaughan says, we've sort of staged the severity of not letting them report. So I think when we turned it on originally, we were just concerned. In fact, when we originally did it, we weren't even, although we got the in-cab reports, we weren't using them because, as you say, bear in mind that when we went live with it all, we completely changed the way we collect waste from a weekly anything you like, any number of bags, to a fortnightly 4-bag limit on actual residual waste. So it was a massive change. So politically, there wasn't an appetite really for being particularly onerous on people to make sure they were doing what they were supposed to, when no one was really certain that anyone understood what they were meant to be doing. But as time went on, we used the information and did what we did, and actually there isn't much pushback on it, and we do record everyone that tries. So I was interested after looking at it yesterday, nothing to do with this, but just out of interest, and I think we only turned that on about 4 or 5 months ago. We've had about 600 refused misbins, as I call them, in Dynamics. So it's not many, it's about 100 a month. And as far as I'm aware, we don't get a lot of pushback on it. I think people accept that they may not have put their refuse out correctly.
Interesting. I mean, for us, from Integrated Skills point of view, the idea behind all this was our discussions with councils to say, we want to adopt a much more robust approach to things like return bins, which are, in some cases you hear that people would go back and do kind of anything really because they didn't have any data to the contrary. So I just want to say, I think we've probably got to draw this to a close, but I just want to say thank you so much for your time, Vaughan, Darren. We really appreciate it. I hope you don't mind if we send a copy of the presentation round. We've also got a recording for anyone who wants to sort of listen into what Colchester have been doing, which we'll circulate to anyone who wants to receive that. But can I just say thank you both on behalf of Integrated Skills and those people listening and those people who will kind of pick this up in the future. But thanks for your time. Really appreciate it. And thanks very much.
The other thing with Louise is, what we can do is, we'll pick up the communication there. And what we can do is we could then sort of set up so we could do a screen share where you can show them our website, do some live kind of look at a live property, look at the fusion exemption, go into the website, look at how it flows. And we could do that for her, so we could do a presentation of our website with Dynamics, what Darren and his team have done, and do some live feeds so they can see the fusion side and then the Dynamics website.
Brilliant. I mean, part of the whole process of point of this webinar sort of series is actually just to get people talking to each other. So big tick in the box from this morning. So thank you very much. Thanks very much, Vaughan. Thank you, Darren. And we'll speak to you soon. And thanks very much for listening in, everyone. Cheers. Bye-bye.